Today is Sunday, 15th of December 2024. We will start session 2. 2 days ago, I made the session 1, and I want to make a little summary of what we had discussed on the session 1. And mainly, after a small introduction, we went into the topic of thought, which I said is our main tool and I would say the one and only tool humanity has, or saying in another way, the one and only tool that humanity thinks and is convinced it has. I said it may not be the only tool that it has. It is one tool, and that tool is necessary for specific things in life. So it is necessary. But once thought becomes the one and only tool of humanity, which is the case since many centuries, then thought is problematic. This is why I have put it. Thought is problematic. And we started to discuss why it is problematic. There are reasons for it. There are important reasons for it, and this is what we should try to discuss. We said that thought actually is just the outcome of memory. Memory is just what it is. It is the outcome of thought. And what is memorized in the brain is knowledge. So what is stored in the brain is knowledge. And knowledge is experience. All the experiences that are accumulated is knowledge. So thought is knowledge. And thinking is the remembrance stored in the brain, which is knowledge. So this is, in summary, that is the movement. It's a movement. We said it's a movement. Why is it a movement? Because it's a constant movement that repeats itself in the same pattern. It's one pattern. And we said that it's the past. Because memory is the past. So knowledge is also the past. And thought is the past. So thinking is the past. That means that the thinker, the human being, the thinker, is the past. And it's one. It's not that the thinker is thinking. Of course he is thinking, but it's confusing. Words are confusing. Because language is divisive. Always a subject and an object. But it's not how it is. It's not the fact. The fact is that the thinker is the thought. It's not separate, I and thought. I and the thought. No, I am thought. Whenever I think, I am thought. So, this is what we have discussed in session 1, mainly. I really advise all of you who didn't listen to session 1 to go through session 1 so they can understand better session 2. So we said that thought has many characteristics. Many. So I want us to continue, because we have to really totally understand what is the nature of thought. How does thought behave? Now, when I say how does thought behave, it sounds like thought is something, a living thing. But it's not. The living thing is a human being. Thought is a dead structure. Let me be careful. Let me be slow. Thought is a structure of the past. So now, if it is so that thought is the structure of the past, means that it is dead. Because the process of the living, any living process, is never static. It's in constant, it's dynamic. It's always moving like water. Water never stops. it flows, it moves, it flows. Life flows as well, like water. So you cannot stop life. Now, we mentioned in session 1 that thought, which is a very important thing, thought has the characteristics to divide. It's divisive. Everything, because thought is limited. Thought is always limited because it's all a part of the whole. Because thought is knowledge. Knowledge is thought. It's the same. We just don't have the word, the vocabulary, because language has been developed through thinking. So language is limited as well. Because language is thinking as well. And this is our communicative tool. We don't have any other communication. We don't have other communication than words, symbols. This is a communication. And it derives from thought, which is limited. Because it's accumulation through time. Knowledge is accumulation through time. Knowledge is time-bound. So thought is time-bound, and thinking is time-bound. Now, let's go a little deeper. We'll take some more characteristics of thought. Thought has its own energy, but it's a specific energy of thought. And it's an energy of conflict, because we said that whatever is limited, whenever something is limited, conflict is inevitable. Conflict and confusion. So, whatever thought can create is in this realm of confusion and of conflict. Now, this thought energy has potential destructive elements in it. Because it because it doesn't see the whole. Thought is not the whole. Thought is fragmentation constantly. It's fragmentation. So thought cannot flow like the living. Thought transformed itself in its own limitation. So thought lives its own reality. It lives its own reality. It operates in its own reality of confusion, because of the nature of the more and more, the accumulation, which is more and more. Something whole doesn't require any accumulation. It's already there. It's everything. It's there. Instantly there. Thought is always adding to the previous thought, and it modifies it according to previous past thoughts. It modifies. But it always stays in limitation. Just 1 second, I come back. So it works, it modifies from previous thought, it modifies to a new thought. Always in time, is always time bound. So, I mentioned in the session 1, and I will do it in parallel while we discuss all these aspects. I will discuss so that we don't forget that all this discussion is to understand humanity in the practical world. This is not philosophical theory or some intellectual verbal communication. to satisfy our intellect and then go home. No, it has practical application in order to understand why there is so much conflict. And I'm very careful with words. I just will use the word conflict for the moment, which is absolutely evident. It's irrefutable. The world is full of conflict. The world is full of conflict. Humans are full of conflict. Every human being. And all the relations, human relations, also are full of conflict. Not only now. It has been like that for thousands of years. And human being was not able to address this and to understand what is going wrong, what fundamental mistakes human beings go through, repeating the same pattern again. So, this destructive energy, or this, let's say, this potential destructive energy of thought, it is this self-created energy of thought. It's a specific thought energy. It's not the same energy as energy that is not thought bound. It's a specific energy of thought, which means through thinking, humans are constantly in this energy which has potential destructive qualities. And exactly this is what we see in the world. Because the world is a result of thought. All the world, the whole world, is the result of thought. Thought has created this world. Through the human being. So now, thought does much more than that. Thought has its own so-called intelligence. Let me go slow and just say thought has its intelligence. Just For the lack of a better word, we use the word intelligence. For now. We will see later if it's really intelligence. Or what is it? But there are synonyms of that word intelligence that fit very well to the nature of thought. And I will use two words. One is the cleverness of thought. Thought is clever. And thought is cunning. So the thinker adopts automatically the energy of thought while he thinks. This is logical. This is why human beings are clever and cunning. While thinking. And it's very easy to say that's intelligence. Later we will find out when we go deeper into the topic of intelligence, what is intelligence really? And if intelligence of thought is really intelligent. If that word really fits. You know, words are words. Just words. And I said always, the word is not the thing. We use words because we need to communicate, but that's all. We give words too much importance and too much emotion and too much weight. And we think we know what the word means. We think we know. But we don't realize that thought is always contradictory and creates always confusion. So I give always the example. I like to put this example. We can put another example, but the word tree is not the tree. It's just the word. But when we see a tree, we identify it as a tree. Why? Why do we identify it as a tree? I mean, why do we identify the word and identify what is the tree, the word? Because we learned it. It's stored. This is stored as memory in the brain. That is knowledge. We learned that the tree, the word tree, is We learned to identify through the word tree what it is. But when we see a tree, which we learned that it is a tree, do we really perceive the tree? Or do we just recall automatically? It goes automatic. Recall the remembrance of the learned. It means the remembrance of the known. The known which is stored in the brain of the word tree. So when we see the tree, we are just recalling what we learned through the word, which is a thought of tree. So between the tree and the observer, we have thought, the known. The known is knowledge of the word tree. And we are convinced that we know what tree is. But we don't realize in this process, because we are so rooted in knowledge, in this case of the word tree, which is knowledge. This is knowledge. That we don't realize, we lose capacity. We have lost the capacity to observe the tree, to watch the tree. We think the tree when we see it. We don't watch it. To watch is not to think. To observe is not to think. So we cannot be free of knowledge while we watch the tree. This is problematic. Now you start to see that maybe it's not such a irrelevant thing to not be able to be free of thought when it is needed. When you observe the tree, thought is in our way. And this is a limitation. That's the reason why I say thought has a blind quality. Thought is blind. It lives in his own structure, which is separate from the whole. And the tree is not creation of thought. The tree has not been put together by thought. That means that actually there are elements that are free of thought. And if something is free of thought, humans should be able to observe it free of thought. Otherwise, by logic, we become blind and don't realize it. Because we are convinced, because we are thought when we think. Being thought, we don't realize it. That thought is a hindrance. That thought is what keeps us in the dark. So this is why I say it's not just some little thing, the topic of thought. It has a lot of implications for humanity that we don't realize. So now we go one step further. How does thought operate in the human being? Of course, we said it's remembrance through the brain, and then thought gives the possibility to think. And the human being thinks. But it thinks the thought, so he is thought. Now, when you are thought, you believe in that thought. Because if you don't believe in that thought, thought cannot prevail. Thought needs an anchor, a receptor in the human being to prevail. And what is the receptor? I don't find a better word now. I'm sure there is a better word, but let's say the receptor, the anchor, where thought can prevail in the human structure. We said thought is clever and has cunningness. So, How does thought infiltrate in the human being? Just I'm using the word to infiltration because somehow it infiltrates. The me is a creation of thought. Negatively expressed means without thought, the me cannot develop, cannot dissolves, or is not even born. And if it is born, if thought disappears, the me dissolves. Because the me has all the elements of thought. Thought creates the me in order to prevail. And have permanency in the human structure. And it is so that it has a permanent presence, let's say, in the human structure. So, synonym of the me is the ego or the self. Many things have been talked about the self, the ego, and the higher ego, and many things have been said. But actually, whatever has been said is work of thought. That develops theories. But we don't want to develop theories. We want to be practical and not. We are observing thought. So whatever you say, if you like better the word the ego or the self, it's the same. The me. I usually use the me. I like it because, not that I like it, it's just I use that word more because it's very plastic, it's very graphic, because we always say I, my life, my success, my pain, my house. So it's the me. This is why it sounds very graphic, very plastic, more than the ego. But anyway, it's the same. You can use the word that you like or that you choose. Main thing is to understand that the me has been put together by thought. So, if the me is a creation of thought, what does it mean? It means that all the characteristics of thought are the characteristics of the me. So we said the characteristics of the me is the past. The characteristics of... No, I said the characteristics of thought is the past. So the me is thought. So it is also the past. It is time. Thought is time. So the me is time. It's not separate. The me is the accumulation of the past stored in the brain as memory. Now, something else that happens with the me is the me thought creates always a center through the me. So the me is always the recipient in our human structure for whatever thought is constructing. So through the me, thought creates always a center. And thought is always fragmented, so the me is fragmented. Fragmentation creates isolation. And creates division. Me and you. I am not you, and you are not me. And this creates a lot of confusion because the me thinks that he, as a separate entity, is thinking. This is why we say, I am thinking. The me also is convinced that it's his thought. It's my thought. Because everything is centered. The center is the me. So whatever happens, it's me. It's my creation. The me is blind, like thought, and it doesn't realize that it just replicates memory stored in the brain. It's just a projection. That's all. The me is just a projection, but the me says, no, I am thinking. It's my thought. So the me is convinced that he creates thoughts. But it is not like that. Thought is a mechanical process. Thought lives by habits. So the me becomes mechanical. And we said in session 1 that if thought is the outcome of memory, means that the me is a program. Is a program, and any program is the past because it has been programmed. And then the me is only reaction. He only recalls what there is already there in the storage. It means old, the past. But the me believes in all the believes in that structure, and recreates the world of thought, which is an illusion. But the illusion becomes reality. It becomes reality in the thinker because he believes in it. So, if you believe in an illusion, for you you make it real. So illusion is not necessarily just illusion. It sounds, intellectually you imagine, but it's not an intellectual process. We have to understand that illusion becomes reality when you believe in it. So, it's a very complex thing. But the complexity is born out of thought that has created his own world through the me. So you cannot break that illusion through thinking. It's impossible. And this is what humans do, because thought never leaves you alone. Thought participates constantly. So the trap is that the me wants to solve the problems created by the illusion of thought through thinking. So you are constantly turning in circles. This is why it's so important to understand really all the characteristics and the filigrane, subtle, cunning aspects of thought. And I will not make this video too long. I want to mention one more thing, which is the me is the psyche. And there in the psyche, thought is infiltrated. And through the infiltration of thought and all the limitations of thought, the psyche adopts all the qualities of thought, all the limitations of thought, all the limitations and illusions of thought. Of course, where there is limitation, there is illusion. And there is fallacy. And there is mistake. It all goes together. It's just inevitable. Whatever idea, the thought creates ideas through the me. An idea is a series of thoughts which you believe. And then you identify with it. You believe. Belief is identification. We will do this. We will elaborate this in the third session. So the me is the psyche, and in the psyche knowledge has infiltrated, which is thought, the same. And that creates a lot of confusion and a lot of fallacies. This is one of the reasons, it's one of the basic reasons why humanity in that pattern which humanity is not able to break, because he wants to break patterns through more thought and through more knowledge. That doesn't work. It's the same pattern. You cannot dissolve incoherent thought through thought. It's not possible, because thought is thought. And thought makes the thinker believe that there are hierarchies in thoughts. Not every thought is the same. No, there is intelligent thought. There is positive thought. There is creative thought. There is good thought, because there is bad thought, of course. And if there is positive thought, means that there is the opposite, which is negative thought. So thought divides it always. Always the opposite. This is a play. Illusion, the root meaning of illusion, if I'm not wrong, means playing. And this is what thought does. It plays. It's a play. So, thought invents hierarchies between thoughts. No. Positive thought is not negative. There's a totally different thing. But there is no bad and good thought. Thought is thought. Thought is a process that we explain. This is why it's very important to understand how thought is born. It's memory. And memory is the past. And it's a material process, thought. It's nothing special. You cannot transform thought into something different than what it is. It is a material process. It's what it is. So, to start, who distinguishes between positive and negative thought, good and bad thought? Who does that? Who? Thought. Thought itself evaluates thought. It's neurotic. And the me adopts these confusions. And the problematic thing is that it doesn't stay just like that, because then the world creates these divisions which create conflict. Because the me says, I am not like him. I am positive. I am coherent. He is negative. So what? And the other says, no, I'm not negative. That creates conflict. Because it's a play of thought in that destructive energy that I said, that thought creates. We live in the stream of confusion of thought. And that stream is very powerful because it has its own energy. And if we are in that, we're torn apart. It's constant confusion. Looking to achieve in time something that thought invents. So this doesn't give us the possibility to see facts, because we stick to the known knowledge, which is total confusion and limitation. We stick to that. And we hold on to that. So this is very important to really understand, but not intellectually. The intellectual understanding has absolutely no meaning. Verbal lucubration has absolutely no meaning. It's just we have to observe. We have to observe and perceive. Perception and observation and watching. These three qualities are not thinking qualities. If you think, you are not observing. If you think, means if you recall the known. When I say thinking is to recall the known, it's memory. You cannot watch, because watching is not the past. Observing is not the past. And perceiving, perception, is not the past. These qualities are not time-bound. But we are stuck in time-bound qualities, day and night. So, I think it's enough for today. We will continue in session 3 and go and elaborate and discuss more all the intricacies of. Now we have found out the new thing today has been the me, which is the psyche, and thought. The me is thought. Thought is time, so the me is time. Thought is confusion, so the me is confusion. So see you in session 3, and I wish you a very good day, wherever you are.